So greetings to everyone. I'm sorry that this video is actually coming out pretty late, but I know for most of the string players involved in this project that you will be recording the chaconne for Loss and Hope. And for those of you that are having some technical difficulties with recording Sweet for Hope, just to let you know, I am in communication with you and your candor is appreciated. I will definitely be working with you to be able to include the audio that you submit in the final product. The big issue is making sure that we get all of these files over to our sound engineers. So this is truly just part one of this larger project, is getting all of these sound recordings so that our engineers can start working on mixing and mastering the final audio product. And then I also will still be asking for video footage of you performing so that we can put that together as well. But the focus of the whole project really is the audio. So I want to make sure that that's working well for you. And I want this to be a positive experience. I know I've made some posts about that and I've said it to a lot of you through email, but if you are getting frustrated or you feel like you're getting some dead ends with the software that you're using or that's being recommended, please either communicate with me or try something new. I'm absolutely interested in experimenting with different softwares and different ways of recording. I want to give a shout out again to Colin Chandler, who's one of the students at SPU that's studying music education and sound engineering. He's a fantastic trumpet player that's been doing our trumpet play along tracks. And he gave us several different options, some things that he's been working with the Army Band on, of how to record yourself and upload those things. So if you're just using a smartphone or if you're using some sort of a software on your computer, he's got a couple different Word documents that outline the ways that you can utilize those to get good recordings. So if you haven't seen those in the resource folder, please check them out. Today's video is specifically on how to use GarageBand to be able to record yourself with the play along tracks. I've been recommending Audacity. It's something that I'm familiar with, and that's the primary reason that I recommended it. So if you're using GarageBand or there's like a memo voice app and things like that, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to use Audacity. It's not required. I just know that it's free and that it's available for PCs and Macs. But what's been coming up are some formatting issues with Macs, especially if you have certain security firewalls or if you have a newer version of a Mac, a MacBook Pro, it'll have some things that restrict Audacity from accessing your microphone. And so we've come across those issues. It's primarily with newer Macs, but Macs all come with GarageBand installed. So this is specifically for anybody that has GarageBand. It's not exclusively on Mac, but if that is an option for you and you're having issues with Audacity or you're not sure of how else you can record something, I wanted to show you how to use GarageBand to do this project. So with that introduction done, let's go ahead and open up the application. I want to show this to you from the very beginning of the process. Depending on whether or not you've used GarageBand before, this might be easier to access. You might already have a lot of the defaults set up. And so it might look a little different, but for those of you that haven't used it before, if it's your first time using it, it will have a couple of prompts that will ask you to just give GarageBand access to your microphone and make sure that you have all of the devices, the hardware set up correctly in terms of how you're going to listen to your recording and how you're going to record it. The very first interface you see in GarageBand is a way to choose your project and different things that you can do. We want a new project and we want just an empty project. There are ways to get some factory templates of how you might be recording something. I would not mess with these because these are going to mess with the actual audio settings in terms of gain and inputs. Let's just do an empty project. So I'm going to hit choose. It should open up essentially this kind of blank canvas. And what we want to do is just record audio. And there's an opportunity to choose your input. All right. So it says choose track type. We want audio. This is for USB and MIDI, which we're not going to be utilizing. This is if you're using a microphone on an amp. And so we're not necessarily doing that. And then, of course, there's a drummer setting. We just want recording using a microphone. And most of you are just going to be using the built-in microphone on your computer, or you might have an external microphone. But this is the type of track that we want to choose. And then we need to go ahead and check some of the other boxes. It'll say, I want to hear my instrument as I play and record. I'm going to recommend that you do not click that. It creates some issues in terms of latency and what you're listening to while you're recording. So do not check this box. It says, I hear sound from external headphones and my instrument is connected with MacBook Pro microphone. So these are my input and my output settings. You can also click on this input drop-down menu. Make sure that you've checked the input because you are going to be recording into the GarageBand software. And then you can make sure that you have the right inputs and outputs checked. This is available in preferences, and you could also do this when you're past this initial screen, but you might as well get it set up now so that you don't have to worry about it later. Output device, I'm using my headphones so that I will be able to listen to the play along track, and my input device is just my MacBook Pro microphone. Again, if you have additional external microphones, you could choose those, but you just have to be careful about the gain and how you're recording into the software to make sure that there's no clipping or distortion. If those terms don't mean anything to you, then don't worry about it. Just use the microphone you have built into your computer, and it will do the job that it needs to do. So then I've got those preferences done. I'm going to X out of that. I can see that I'm recording with my microphone, and I'm using my external headphones to listen to it. I'm going to hit Create. This will give you a lot of initial information, and don't necessarily worry about it. This is the audio 1 track that you're going to be recording into. There are ways to access different settings for instruments. You have a sound library and a whole bunch of presets and loops that you could utilize. This is if you're doing more of a production product. And then there's a whole EQ control panel down here of how you can adjust the sound. Again, I would not necessarily worry about any of this. Don't mess with the compressor or ambience or reverb. You kind of, especially with reverb and ambience, with that turned all the way down. The way that it is preset should be perfect for what we're trying to do. So just like we did in Audacity, this is what's really nice, is how accessible and easy this is. I'm going to go to my resource folder, right? So our virtual ensemble resource folder. Again, depending on your interface, it might look a little different, but all of this content will be there. Here is my Suite for Hope, and I'm going to the play along tracks. And right now I'm going to record the violin 1 track. So watch how easy this is. I love it. Just like in Audacity, I'm going to grab that MP3, hold down my mouse, drag it into the project, and drop it. And that will drop the play along track right into GarageBand. It shows you the Soundwave file here so that you can see that the audio has been processed. Here's another thing that's important. GarageBand is a little more accessible in how it allows you to interact with the recordings that you've done. Audacity is really strict about where the recordings are and how they line up and where you can record with them. With GarageBand, it's really just sort of click and go. And so when I dropped this in here, you see that it dropped exactly where I put it. And I want to move this so that it's right at the very beginning of this scroll so that I know I'm going to record right at the start. It also allows me to flip this up into the audio 1 channel, and I don't want to do that because that's where I'm recording. So I'm going to leave it down here with this special channel that it created, and you see it's already titled Suite for Hope, Play Along Track Violin 1. So I'm going to leave it here, push it all the way to the left to make sure it's justified with the cursor. I can also pop that cursor around anywhere that I want. Make sure that you pull it all the way back to the beginning. Should be bar 1, beat 1, right at the very beginning. You can see that I've got a visual of my microphone input, so it's picking up the microphone. And if it is too loud, pardon your ears, I don't mean to upset you with this, but if I go, hey, hey, you can see that it's getting up into the orange and the red. And so then I could just turn down the volume so that I'm not clipping. It should be fine where it is, so I'm setting it right back to 0. So I don't want to change the gain right now. I think it'll be fine where it is. All right, and so I'm ready to record. Now, what's interesting in GarageBand that is not a feature in Audacity is this automatically sets a tempo and chooses a key and a time signature and creates a metronome click, you can see right here, and a count in for however many beats that are set for your time signature. So I want to unclick, unselect the metronome. What this does is it keeps the click of the metronome going while I'm recording, because in the play along track, we already have clicks and the tempos are going to change. So I want to make sure that I deselect this. Otherwise, you'll end up getting some weird clicks that are happening that'll be really distracting. Depending on your preference, you could have the count in happen. What the count in does is it'll give you 4 little clicks, 4 counts before it starts recording. Because we have a play along track, you don't necessarily need that because the count in is already built into the play along track. So you could also deselect this. If for whatever reason though you feel more comfortable knowing that you've got 4 beats before the play along track starts and before it starts recording, you can keep this clicked. It won't be heard in the final recording. This happens before it starts recording, but I leave that up to you. Like I said, I would just deselect it. You don't need it in order to use the play along track because all the click tracks are built into the play along track. So the last thing that we would then want to do is record our part. So I've got the play along track just dropped in here. I've lined it up at bar 1, beat 1. I deselected my metronome and my count in because that's already built into the play along track. I can see that I'm getting input from my microphone, my built-in microphone. And then if you want to, you could just hit play and test to make sure you're hearing it. So I have my headphones plugged in and I'm using them. Right now, I can hear the backing track. You cannot hear it because I'm listening to it through my headphones. But I'm going to come back here, make sure that I start this bar 1, beat 1, and I'm ready to record. Very quickly before I demonstrate this with the actual recording, because I want to show you how it works, I do want to point out another cool feature. I almost forgot this. We all need to make sure that we're tuning before we record. 8 equals 440. GarageBand actually has a built-in tuner, which I think is amazing. So I'm going to check my violin right now. I click on the tuner. I'll play my A. So boom, it's telling me that I'm about 7 cents sharp. So I'm going to make that adjustment. It's getting there and it's thinking about it. Make a little more of an adjustment. Good, so I'm right there in the green and I want that for my tuning. And I could do all my strings that way. I just wanted to point that out because again, that's not in Audacity and it's a really cool feature of GarageBand. Once you click out of it, it'll turn off the metronome and put you right back to where you were. So I'll put my music in front of me. I've got that here to my left. Whoops, let me get this situated. And I am just going to record the first few bars and then let us listen to that so that you can kind of get a sense of how it works. So again, you're not going to hear my play along track because I have my headphones in right now. And I'm just going to record those first few bars. So get ready, hit the record button. There we go. So those of you that have been practicing this and know this music pretty well, you will notice I intentionally made a mistake at the end there, and I want to show you why. So the other nice thing about GarageBand as opposed to Audacity is it really lets you take care of editing. It's really good about letting you just sort of tap in and fix things and correct any errors. I'm going to unplug my headphones right now so that we'll be able to, so I'm going to change the output. All right, so it's saying this isn't available anymore. That's okay. It should, yeah, automatically start playing through my speakers. You guys should be able to hear it. Let me just make sure my audio is turned up a little more so that my microphone can pick it up. I'm going to go back to the beginning and show you what I recorded. I can come down here and mute the play along track so I can just hear myself. I'll put the play along track back in to make sure it's correct. So there was an issue. Right? I had some tuning issues. Again, sort of intentional. I'm making some mistakes so I can show you ways that you can fix it. So I'm going to come back here and notice there was a tuning issue. I'm going to hit play. Yes, I didn't like that, right? There was an obvious error that that D on my A string, the third finger, was out of tune with my open D. So I can use my cursor here to find out where did that happen. I think it was right here. Oh yeah, that's totally out of tune, right? So I'm gonna come back. There's where it happens. I'm going to be right on this section. I'm gonna find my D and get it in tune. Now it's in tune. I'm going to give myself a 4-click count in. Check this out. Now when I go back, this is what you will hear. Notice that that is a little late, and so it starts to cut off what I did before. I'm going to grab the very edge of that new recording, and I'm going to pull it back a little bit. Grab the edge of my old recording, pull that in a little bit, and it will fix where it was. So I can just adjust where this recording happens, get it over to that rest, and where the old recording is. I'm going to come back. So you get, my kids are obviously here today. But isn't that great? For those of you that have never used GarageBand, it's so user-friendly. I would definitely tell you it is more user-friendly than Audacity, even though I think Audacity is really accessible. But GarageBand is not necessarily accessible to everybody. Audacity, you're able to download for free. So that's why I made those decisions. But if you're looking at this video and using GarageBand, have fun with it. Definitely do not just use it for this project. There is so much you can do with it. Again, at the end, I made another mistake, and so I wanted to show you again how easy this is to fix. Right, so there was my mistake. I'm going to come back here, find out where it happened. So that tells me that's where that started. I've got 4 beats of a count in. I'm going to find that measure again. I'll go ahead and practice it. So now I know I can do it correctly. I'm going to record over that. And then we'll take a listen. So it's just that simple. Now, a word of caution, I really do not recommend that you patch everything in and that you try to like re-record little sections like that. It can start to distort the timing. It's not a good practice to do that. Really, you want to try to get everything in one take. And I fully understand how challenging and difficult that can be. Bring my face up here real quick. I really understand that can be a really sincere challenge of trying to do everything perfect in the first take, but try to avoid editing as much as possible because it can create some timing issues, like I said, and distort some things. I think already in some of those edits that I made, you might notice some timing issues. Let's actually check against the play along track, which we need it to line up with. So I'm going to come back here and let's listen. There we go. So do you see how there were some timing issues with it? It's because I did that little overlay to try to fix the edit. This is something that we can't deal with because of the time frame of it. Our sound engineers are not going to be editing individual tracks. They're just going to be mixing and mastering the final recording. That's one of the reasons I've been giving such specific feedback on things that need to be addressed, because they're things that we cannot edit in the project. Just for professional experience, you know, in the outside world, if you're taking on a studio gig or if you're recording tracks that you're submitting for a project, sound engineers can do incredible things, but we shouldn't take advantage of them. For anybody that knows a sound engineer, really we want to give them the best product possible to work with so that their craft and their expertise can be in creating that final product. When we give them something that has a missed note or the rhythm is wrong or the dynamics aren't really expressive, they end up spending so much more time trying to do something that we should have facilitated as the performer. So I'm being really strict about the recordings that I'm taking just to know that the best product is available for our sound engineers to be able to work with. I sincerely hope that this video helped. If you do have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, for all the string players that are going to be recording on the Chaconne of Loss and Hope, I'm excited to be working with you on that second piece, and you can utilize GarageBand or Audacity or whatever works best for you. Just make sure you're using the play along tracks. I'll be uploading those this weekend. For everybody else that is re-recording Sweet for Hope, or if you're working today on finalizing those recordings, or if you've already reached out to me and had some technical issues or timing issues where you needed the weekend to be able to finish up those recordings, hopefully you can use this information and we can find a way to troubleshoot around some of the things that are preventing you from getting that recording submitted and completed. Thank you guys so much for being involved in this project. As always, please make sure you reach out to me if you have any questions. I look forward to listening to your recording soon. Thank you guys for being involved.